Hello and welcome to the recap for today, the 25th of August, covering the previous week's news. Now, it was a weird week because it was sort of slow in terms of real news, but a lot of people said a lot of interesting things. So I'm just going to take what I consider to be the highlights of what people said. By people, I mean Blizzard developers. And yeah, we'll go through that. So the first thing is patch 5.4. In case you haven't been around the last while, there was a lot of changes and things like that. It was pretty much all but confirmed to be the 27th of August, but it's now been moved up to the 10th of September for the US and the 11th for EU. In terms of the Siege of Orgrimmar, all normals will unlock, day 1, week 1, Flex Wing 1, and Heroics will unlock week 2, and I'm currently not sure about LFR, though I'd imagine it will unlock either week 1 or week 2 or bleh. Yes, week 2 or 3, something like that. It should be interesting. I'm really looking forward to the tier from what I've seen in the PTR. It's very fun, 14 bosses, it's a massive instance, and you do actually get quite a lot of varied locales, including a few different tile sets, which should be very nice. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is World of Warcraft free-to-play. Now, Tom Chilton said in an interview that this may make sense to Blizzard at some time, but that there was a lot of risks. And really, I can't see this making sense to them business-wise for quite a while. Because even if Warcraft was to lose, say, 1.5 million subscribers a year, I think it would still be 3 or 4 years before it went free-to-play, based on, having a guaranteed $15 a month from even 2 or 3 million subscribers. That's bound to be more profitable than a free-to-play model. And he was also very worried that a lot of people would just jump in free-to-play, get bored a week after, and leave, which does happen with a lot of free-to-play games. We've seen that lots of free-to-plays, they have a lot of, I suppose they have a lot of chaff, if you know what I mean, in terms of their player base. There's lots of people that are just sort of freeloading in, they don't really take it seriously. It ends up being full of trolls with bullshit like that. And those who actually do want to play the game, they have their experience deteriorated by that, but also they end up paying more than $15 a month. We see now with Elder Scrolls Online coming out with a sub fee, WildStar coming out with a sub fee, and the developers both saying they just want it to be one inclusive game, that people get the full package. There's no subscription, there's no there's no store, there's no nothing cutting away your content, giving you barriers to entry, and artificially changing the game for the purpose of making more money, because at the end of the day, free-to-play does influence your game design, and if it's just shoehorned in to a previously pay-to-play, sub-fee model, then it kind of messes things up. So, there we go, that's the free-to-play stuff. Now next up we have some sort of sad news with the launch of Hearthstone and what seems to be its wild success even at this low stage of beta in terms of the critical acclaim. People are loving it. The old World of Warcraft TCG that was done by Cryptozoic has died. They're no longer going to be renewing the license with them, they don't expect to renew it with any other partner. So essentially the TCG is no longer in production, it's probably not going to be supported for very long. Now what does this mean if you play the TCG? Well, really not that much. You can get all the different cards from the newest expansion set, but there will be no more expansion sets. It's a bit like, say, if Magic the Gathering sort of stopped. You'd just be playing with the cord like the 2014 set or something, and you'd still be able to enjoy your card game. You can still host player-run tournaments, you just need to make sure it's all, by the, the tournament regulations on their website. So essentially, there's nothing being added to the game, but you can still play it if you have fun. That's the nice thing about a physical card game. So yeah, there's one thing, and the next thing is design criticisms. I probably should have put that WoW TCG at the end to keep the flow of the show make sense, but whatever. So Chilton laid two sort of criticisms at the game. He said that firstly, removing the daily quest limit shot them in the foot, because what happened is players burned out hard. They did their Golden Lotus dailies, their Claxi dailies, stuff like that, maxed them out every day for 2 weeks, and then got hardcore burnt out. They just couldn't do it anymore. It happened to me after about 3 weeks, which kind of surprises me I managed to stick it for that long, but it was definitely a problem with game design, and thankfully it's a problem that they're moving away from. I think patch 5.2 is nearly the nail in the coffin in that regard, by adding even more dailies. I mean, you were doing like 15 a day, or quite a lot a day anyway. And some of those actually took a little bit of time because you were fighting mobs with a few million health, and it just wasn't fun. It wasn't really conducive to much of anything that was beneficial to the player base, really. So basically they've said, yes, they understand this is a problem, and stuff like the Timeless Isles is not dailies, it's freeform, you do what you want, there's no hard caps on anything, there's no hard limits. It's perhaps slightly worrying that people wouldn't pace themselves when it comes to farming coins or something like that, but in general I think the design behind it doesn't encourage that as heavily as It's like stacking up ridiculous amounts of dailies every day, as you know, as much as that design thing he did. That was a really incoherent sentence, whatever. Listen back to it a few times, I'm sure you'll get my meaning. Anyway, the next thing he talked about is that he regrets how players don't explore the world, and they think that in a way it's their fault, because everything has been signified by a marker. You know, everything's like, why do I go here if I get nothing? And that's definitely a worry. It's funny, like, as I've been going through Northrend and that series that I'm doing, I just kind of... there's a lot more to the world that's really cool that you don't see, I suppose. When you actually just take a minute to look at some of the cool scenery, or that particular cool cave, or something like that, there's a lot there, and if a lot of people are really missing out on enjoying that experience, it's perhaps a bit of a problem. So yeah, it's hard, like, do they over-incentivize exploring to get people out into the world? In that case, people aren't doing it for the right reason. It's really hard, and it could just be more the fact that they've trained people to be this way, and perhaps having more exploratory based content, like in the Timeless Isles, will over time train the player base to be a little bit more okay with exploring, and perhaps they throw a few Easter eggs in various places, just so people enjoy that. Now that's nearly it for the show. The final thing I just wanted to mention is that Valor Points are still in patch 5.4, and you have plenty of time to stockpile as much Valor as you need. However, even at the rate you'll be getting new gear, chances are you won't be able to spend your full cap on day one or anything like that. So yeah, that's it for the show. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.